Good morning, and welcome to the deep dive for April 14th, 2025.
Good morning.
We've got quite a bit to unpack today across several TCGs, Pokemon, of course, but also Magic, Lorcana, a One Piece mentioned in our sources.
Yeah, lots happening.
Our mission really is to sift through all this info, market trends, new releases, community stuff, and just pull out the key insights. Keep everyone informed without, drowning in details.
Definitely. There's a real mix of perspectives in what we looked at. Market data, game mechanics, community drama. It's all in there.
And yeah, we'd love to hear what you all think, so drop your thoughts and questions in the comments after you listen. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. It's a pretty interesting time, lots of different pressures on different games. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with Pokemon. Seems to be a lot of chatter there. The big question, has the market topped out? Seen some talk about pullbacks, maybe some negativity.
Yeah, that's definitely a theme. And we do see some data points like Journey Together. That set seems to have dipped from around $280 down to maybe $230.
Okay, yeah, that's noticeable. How's that compared to the earlier Scarlet and Violet sets, like SV01 to SV04, the first few?
Well, those earlier ones, SV01 through 4, they seem more stable, kind of hovering around that $200 mark, generally speaking.
So Journey Together is maybe underperforming expectations a bit.
Could be. Maybe perceived lack of huge chase cards compared to the first few sets, or just general Pokemon product fatigue. It's hard to say for sure. Collectors might be getting more selective, too.
Focusing on just the big hits, maybe? Not full sets?
Exactly. We see that sometimes. And, the smaller price moves, like under 10%, often just market noise, right?
Right, yeah. Easy to overreact to every little dip or rise.
Totally. You've got to look for the bigger patterns, not just the daily jitters, but distinguishing between noise and a real signal. That's the trick.
Speaking of patterns, looking longer term, there's talk about older Sword and Shield boxes. Evolving Skies, for example. Potential for like $3,000, maybe even $5,000 down the road.
That's the speculation, yeah. Fits the pattern for popular out-of-print sets. Evolving Skies definitely has those evolutions people love. Lower print run compared to recent stuff, possibly.
So plausible, but still speculation.
Absolutely. So many things can change in a few years. Reprints, collector focus shifting. You never know for sure.
It's interesting. You see this contrast with Magic, the Gathering mentioned. New Magic products apparently doing really well, booming even.
Yeah, standard boxes, collector boxes, commander stuff, flying off shelves, relatively speaking.
But the vintage Magic market, struggling apparently. That's quite different from Pokemon's potential long-term strength.
It really highlights the different segments, doesn't it? New, playable stuff versus old, purely collectible stuff. Different demand drivers. Playability versus scarcity and nostalgia.
And thinking about wider market forces, potential economic downturns, how might that affect Pokemon cards as, like, an alternative asset?
Well, the thinking is sometimes when traditional investments look shaky, people turn to tangible things, collectibles. And Pokemon booster box prices, they've been fairly steady since that Chester Cheetah period of craziness a while back. So maybe demand holds up or even increases.
Yeah, interesting thought. Okay, let's talk 151. Sources say it was printed a lot, heavily printed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huge print run on that one.
And current prices are being called absurd compared to where they might be in, say, 6 or 7 years.
Well, yeah, with that much supply, scarcity isn't really a factor yet. Nostalgia is huge for 151, no doubt. That'll keep interest long term.
But for prices to really climb, you need that supply to dry up over time.
Exactly. That 6-7 year time frame sounds about right for a modern, heavily printed set to maybe start feeling genuinely scarce.
And connecting back to Journey Together, the perception is it's underperforming. And there's this idea that how a new set is received is often influenced by the last set.
Makes total sense psychologically. If the last set felt like a bit of a dud, maybe didn't have great pull rates or exciting cards.
People are more hesitant jumping into the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Creates a bit of caution, shows how interconnected sentiment can be.
Okay, and one last point on the Pokemon market. Really important one. Avoid emotional reactions like review bombing, local game stores over prices.
Yes. Crucial reminder. The market sets the price, ultimately. Supply, demand. It's not the shop owner's fault if a box costs X amount.
They're just operating within that market. Attacking them doesn't help anyone.
Right. Understand the market, engage rationally. That's the way.
Okay, shifting to product news. Something interesting out of China. Gem Pack Vol 2.
Ah, yes, the hair artwork ones.
Right, exclusive art connecting Eeveelution's Leafeon, Sylveon, Umbreon, Eevee. Sounds like these are likely China exclusives.
Seems that way. Regional exclusives are definitely a thing. Creates rarity, collector interest outside the region, though getting them can be tricky.
The packs have different finishes too, including flashcards.
Yeah, that's apparently the term they use for foils in China.
Okay, and trainer cards like Level Ball, Quick Ball are in there as foils too.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool for players.
Definitely adds value, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice bling for competitive decks. Appeals to both collectors and players.
Got it. And just a quick mention, Twilight Masquerade. Seen in a booster box opening, but no real details yet.
Yeah, early days. Something to keep an eye on for sure. We'll dive into that when more info drops.
Okay, now, community and events. It's a bit traumatic here. This incident with someone being called the world's dumbest whatnot scammer.
Right, potentially this Grant Turner person, alias Rattle Pokemon 1.
Yeah, mentions of name changes, hand tattoos, even online threats exchanged. Sounds messy.
Unfortunately, yeah. It highlights the risks on some online platforms. Anonymity can sometimes enable this kind of stuff. Trying to evade accountability.
And then there's the whole issue of using people's pictures to expose scams. Potential legal threats, privacy concerns, it's complicated.
Very tricky balance. You want to warn the community, deter scammers.
But you have to be careful about privacy laws, defamation, all that. Where's the line?
Exactly. How do you address it ethically and effectively? Big question.
The underlying issue seems to be, well, scams happening on platforms like Whatnot. And apparently, people can still schedule streams even if they're under investigation.
That seems problematic, if true. Erodes trust if platforms don't act decisively on credible reports of this conduct. Needs robust verification and swift action.
Then it gets darker. A reference to a Grant Michael Turner being sentenced for threats related to a parking dispute at a nursery.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a connection. Shows how online stuff can intersect with serious real-world consequences.
Definitely a sobering reminder about behavior, online or off.
And there's a more general point made, too, about online arguments just getting nasty. People becoming evil to get something wrong.
Yeah, it seems like a wider internet culture thing, sadly.
Yeah.
The need to be overriding respectful discussion.
Creates such a negative environment. We need more constructive dialogue. Acknowledging mistakes is okay.
And briefly, another worrying trend. Actual fights breaking out at places like Costco over new TCG releases.
Yikes. That just shows the intensity of demand sometimes boiling over into totally unacceptable behavior. Needs better management and just people being respectful.
Okay, let's switch gears to market mechanics, logistics. This de minimis rule for imports into the U.S. Under $800, no tariffs, right?
Correct. But, and this isn't key, only one package per person per day.
Ah, okay. That's a crucial detail for small sellers, collectors buying internationally.
Hugely significant. Allows a lot of stuff in duty-free, but you have to follow those limits. $800 value, one package a day.
And trying to cheat it, like splitting shipments or driving around picking up multiple packages. Big risks there.
Oh yeah, customs can aggregate those shipments, reclassify them as formal entries.
Which means fees, like $32 per package. Ouch.
Around that, yes. Plus, potentially other penalties. Trying to game the system can really backfire. Just follow the rules.
Another key point.
Yeah.
It's the country of origin that matters for tariffs, not where it ships from.
Absolutely fundamental. Shipping Chinese goods via, say, Malaysia doesn't avoid China tariffs unless the goods were substantially transformed there.
Okay, so just transshipping doesn't change origin. Good to know for importers.
Definitely. Need to be clear on where goods actually came from.
And you mentioned formal entries. There's also this merchandise processing fee, MPF.
Yep. Another cost that kicks in once you're over the de minimis threshold or classified as a formal entry. It all adds up. Businesses really need to factor these in.
Okay. Now, Japanese booster boxes.
Yeah.
Notoriously volatile prices, right?
Very much so. Lots of ups and downs.
So the suggestion is if there was like a 10% tariff increase, maybe consumers wouldn't even notice it. It'd just get lost in the usual price swings.
It's possible, yeah. The existing volatility, driven by Japanese supply demand, exchange rates, speculation, shipping, it could mask a smaller specific cost increase, like a tariff.
Direct purchases from Japan under $800. Still potentially okay under de minimis.
If and only if it's just one package per person per day and under the $800 value. That rule can still help individual collectors making smaller buys.
Got it. And finally on logistics. Potential shipping delays, customs getting bogged down with new rules.
Could happen. New regulations often cause temporary bottlenecks. Customs might struggle to adapt initially.
So maybe delays? Or maybe they just get overwhelmed and wave stuff through. Sounds uncertain.
Bit of uncertainty is likely, yeah. Both delays and maybe inconsistent enforcement as things settle.
Okay, really quick sidebar. One source mentions some TCG mechanics, Sounded like a newer game. Priority, an aura phase. Adding auras, untapping, removing damage, resetting lanes, then an action phase.
Interesting. Without knowing the game, it's hard to analyze deeply, but it shows the variety out there, right? Resource management, auras, turn structure, action points, core ideas, but always implemented differently.
Always cool to see new takes. Okay, let's talk Magic. The Gathering. Sources say new stuff is still going strong. Standard play boxes, collector boosters, commander sets.
Yeah, that segment seems really healthy. Good player engagement, strong demand for the latest cards and sets, driven by playability, new mechanics, the ongoing story.
But contrast that with Rudy's vintage reserve list investments. Poor return since 2021, apparently.
That's the report. Shows a real split in the Magic market. Vintage, speculative collectibles versus new, playable product.
Highlights the risk in collectibles, even established ones like Magic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What drove value before might be shifting. Past performance isn't a guarantee.
Exactly right. Investor sentiment, broader market forces.
Yeah.
It all plays a part in those high-end vintage markets.
Also mentioned, collector box volatility right at release. Example given was Tarkir Dragonstorm. Price dropped fast, then recovered.
Yeah, apparently due to, local game store employees selling online. Shows how even localized actions can ripple out and cause short-term chaos.
Fascinating. Connects the local scene to the wider online market.
Definitely. Okay, final point on Magic. Oh, well, related.
Okay.
Final Fantasy TCG. Huge pre-order demand.
Apparently massive, maybe exceeding supply. Could mean big invoices for stores getting it in.
Yeah, and the note was, don't expect it to follow the exact same pattern as, say, the Lord of the Rings release last year.
Why was that?
Because expectations for Final Fantasy are already sky high. When hype is that big beforehand, the actual release can be more volatile as the market figures things out.
Ah, okay. So expect maybe some wild price swings for Final Fantasy collector boxes post-launch. Stores will need to be careful.
That seems to be the prediction, yes. High anticipation can lead to turbulence.
Now, we did mention Lorcana in One Piece at the start. Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Our specific sources for this deep dive didn't really have detailed updates on them. So nothing specific to report on Lorcana or One Piece today.
Right. That happens. Depends on what the sources we pull from are focused on. We'll definitely keep watching them for future updates, though.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Key takeaways. Pokemon market. Some corrections, like with Journey Together, but maybe not a full crash. Interesting China exclusives. Community issues like scams, retail aggression still bubbling up.
Uh-huh. And the import rules, de minimis, country of origin, important stuff for buyers and sellers.
Then Magic. New stuff strong, vintage, less so. And this highly anticipated, possibly volatile Final Fantasy PCG launch coming up.
Good summary. Lots of moving parts, constant change across the board.
So the big question for everyone listening,
Yeah.
how does all this affect you? You're collecting, you're playing, changing strategies, more cautious online, excited for Final Fantasy, lots to think about.
Definitely. Hopefully understanding these trends helps people make more informed choices, whatever their involvement in the hobby.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments, yeah. We love hearing from you.
Please do.
And that brings us to our final thought. With everything going on, game mechanics, market shifts, global trade, online drama, what overlooked element might be the biggest disruptor, the biggest game changer in the TCG world over the next year?
Ooh, good question. Something unexpected, maybe?
Could be anything, right? Something we're not even really talking about much yet. Definitely something to ponder.
A great thought to end on. Keep an open mind, look beyond the obvious.
Thank you for staying with us, and don't forget to check out 151Collectables.com for all your TCG needs.
Thanks, everyone.
Catch you on the next deep dive.